Well, it looked bad when it happened, and confirmation came today with an MRI on Warriors star Jimmy Butler indicating he does have a torn ACL. He'll be out for the rest of this season. Surgery is required. Normal rehab for this type of injury is 6 to 9 months, could be a little bit longer. Butler got hurt in the third quarter of last night's game with Miami. He was going up for a pass and came down hard on his right leg. You can see his knee buckles immediately, and the 36-year-old forward was writhing in pain on the floor.
Jamski working up top with Jimmy. Returns it. Jimmy, what a catch. Butler.
January 20th, 2026. One pass, one step, less than a second, and everything snaps sideways. Jimmy Butler catches the ball in the paint, plants his foot, and his knee gives out instantly. You can hear it echo through Chase Center. Not a gasp, a sickening sound, the kind that makes players freeze, the kind that tells you this is bad. 36-year-old Jimmy Butler collapses to the floor, screaming, clutching his leg, while teammates sprint toward him in panic.
Kind of funny, he was still cracking jokes over there while he was on the ground. In true Jimmy fashion, always gonna have a good time no matter what the situation is. I do love that perspective and that part of his personality. Even the worst of a moment, he was still, having a good time. He was trying to get to the free throw line. He said it was 2 shots.
And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. This might be the end. Not just the season, not just his run with the Warriors. Everything he spent his life building could be gone in one brutal moment. What makes it even crazier? The guy who crashed into him was literally traded for Jimmy Butler. No exaggeration, real life. Cold irony? The MRI results hit the next morning, torn ACL, season over. But at 36 years old in the NBA, an ACL isn't just an injury. It's a career cliff. Guys don't bounce back from this. They fade out quietly.
Holding on to that knee. That did not look good at all. And that right knee, this is incredibly concerning. His leg caved in there.
And Jimmy Butler's situation is worse than people realize. The Warriors didn't just trade for him. They pushed all their chips in. Picks, depth, flexibility, everything. One twisted knee later, the entire plan is on fire. This was supposed to be the comeback story, the gritty veteran chasing one last run. Instead, it's turning into a nightmare that could haunt 2 franchises at once. Because this injury didn't just hurt Butler, it shook the Warriors' future to the core. One trade, one collision, total chaos. Now let's rewind to the exact moment it all blew up. Warriors versus Heat, January 20th. Butler facing Miami, his former team, for the first time this season. You already know the energy was different, revenge game vibes, extra juice, and Butler was cooking. 17 points in just 21 minutes. Mid-range buckets, power drives, full control. Golden State was rolling, up 35 to 112, and everything looked perfect. Then with 7:41 left in the third quarter, Butler cuts toward the rim to catch an entry pass. And that's when Davion Mitchell comes flying in. Yes, that Davion Mitchell, now a Heat guard. And here's the insane part. Mitchell was literally part of the trade package that sent Butler to Golden State. The Warriors traded Mitchell away to get Butler. And now Mitchell is the one who crashes straight into Butler's knee. The collision is violent. Butler's right leg twists in a way legs are not meant to twist. He drops instantly. No delay, no acting, just raw pain. Teammates said later they'd never heard a scream like that. Not frustration, not anger, pure agony. Butler stayed on the floor for minutes, not seconds, minutes. Trainers surrounded him. The arena went silent. Buddy Hield and Gary Payton II finally helped lift him up, but Butler couldn't put any weight on his leg. They didn't walk him off, they carried him. And in that moment, everyone in the building knew. This wasn't just an injury, this was a turning point. His Warriors teammates knew, the Miami players knew. Everyone inside that arena knew they had just watched something go horribly wrong. There was no celebrating, no noise, just that heavy silence that hits when basketball stops feeling like a game. By the next morning, the news finally dropped. Shams Charania reported it first. Torn ACL. Butler's agent confirmed it hours later, calling it a gut punch on every level. And that part was true. But here's what nobody in Butler's camp wants to say out loud. This might be the end. When you're 26 and you tear an ACL, it's brutal but survivable. Adrian Peterson did it. Derrick Rose tried. Modern medicine works miracles. Players come back. But at 36, that's a completely different conversation. The NBA is ruthless to aging bodies, and it doesn't care about your name or your legacy. An ACL tear means 12 to 18 months of recovery. And that's not just surgery and rehab. That's relearning how to move, how to jump, how to stop thinking about your knee every single step. Even if the knee heals, the explosion rarely does. Confidence wobbles. Your body remembers the trauma even when your mind pretends it's fine. Jimmy Butler turns 37 in September 2026. By the time he's fully cleared, if he ever fully is, he'll be pushing 38. The Warriors' medical staff has already hinted his timeline stretches deep into the next calendar year. Translation, best case scenario, he's not touching an NBA floor until late 2026. More realistically, 2027, and perfect recoveries at that age don't exist. History is brutal. Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles at 34 and was never the same. Dwayne Wade felt his knees betray him by 31 and limped through his final years. Vince Carter played forever, but only by becoming a role player, not a star. Now add Butler's injury history to the mix, and it gets scary fast. Meniscus issues in 2018. Knee problems again in 2024. An MCL sprain. His knees have been a red flag for years. Now he's facing the worst knee injury possible, at the worst possible age, at the worst possible moment. And that's where this turns from tragic into a complete disaster. The Warriors didn't just trade for Jimmy Butler, they sold everything to get him. Rewind to February 6th, 2025. That's when the 5-team blockbuster detonated. Golden State Warriors shipped out Andrew Wiggins, Kyle Anderson, Davion Mitchell, and a first-round pick. That's not pocket change, that's real blood. Wiggins was their second-best scorer. Mitchell was a young guard with upside. These weren't throw-ins, these were actual assets. And they flipped all of it for a 35-year-old with baggage. But Golden State was desperate. Stephen Curry was running out of time. Draymond Green was declining. Klay Thompson was already gone. The dynasty was slipping through their fingers. This trade was supposed to be the last stand, one final swing at glory, and Butler didn't come cheap after arriving. He opted out of his $52.4 million player option with Miami Heat and signed a massive 2-year, $111 million extension with Golden State. That's $56.8 million for the 2026 to 2027 season alone. Let that sink in. The Warriors are now locked into paying nearly $57 million to a player who's about to miss an entire year, recovering from a torn ACL. And here's the real kicker. Butler becomes an unrestricted free agent after that season. At 38 years old, coming off a torn ACL. What's his market value then? Who's lining up to offer real money? Exactly, nobody. The Warriors are stuck. There's no trade escape, no cap magic, no easy out. GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. tried to sound upbeat when the injury news dropped. He said the team has no plans to move Butler's contract. He said his vision is Butler, giving us a boost next year like he did when he arrived. That's executive translation for, we're locked in and there's nothing we can do. No team in the league is touching that contract now. Not with the injury, not with the age, not with the uncertainty. The Warriors have no choice but to ride this out and pray for a miracle. And now let's talk about the part people forget, why Miami was so eager to move on in the first place. Because this wasn't a normal trade, this was an escape pod situation. Butler didn't just request a trade, he scorched the place on the way out. It all started January 2nd, 2025, when Butler stood at a press conference and said he'd lost his joy playing basketball in Miami. That's not subtle. That's code for, I'm done here, and I want out. Now. The Miami Heat didn't take Butler's comments lightly. Not even a little. On January 3rd, literally one day later, Miami suspended Jimmy Butler for 7 games for conduct detrimental to the team. That alone tells you how bad things already were. But even that didn't cool him down. By January 22nd, Butler missed a team flight. No mix-up, no excuse, just didn't show. The Heat responded with another 2-game suspension, and now the situation was spiraling fast. Then came the moment that officially ended everything. January 27th, Butler shows up to practice, finds out he's getting benched, and walks out. No argument, no discussion. He didn't finish practice, didn't talk to coaches, didn't explain himself, he just left. That's when Miami suspended him indefinitely. And let's be clear, NBA teams do not indefinitely suspend star players unless the relationship is completely broken beyond repair. At that point, things were toxic. Butler stopped pretending. Miami stopped protecting him. Fines stacked up fast, nearly $6 million in withheld salary and penalties. Butler eventually settled with the Heat for around $3 million in October 2025, but by then the damage was already permanent. Miami wanted him gone. Other teams knew Miami had zero leverage, and that's when the Golden State Warriors swooped in, thinking they were robbing the bank. For a while, it looked like they were right. Butler arrived in February 2025 and instantly changed the energy. Golden State went 23-7 in his first 30 regular season games. They climbed from below .500 all the way to the 7th seed in the West. Butler averaged 17.5 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 5.4 assists, bringing toughness, structure, and leadership to a team that badly needed it. Then the playoffs hit, and playoff Jimmy showed up. He averaged 19.2 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 5.2 assists across 11 postseason games. The Warriors shocked the league by upsetting the Houston Rockets in round 1, and Butler was the engine behind it. That intensity, Miami fans remembered it instantly from his 2020 Finals run. Golden State eventually lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the conference semifinals, but nobody was upset. The trade had worked. Butler delivered leadership, edge, and playoff credibility. Stephen Curry finally had a co-star who could take over games when things got tight. The future actually looked bright. Then the 2025-26 season started, and Butler looked even better. He was averaging 20.0 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 4.9 assists per game. His efficiency was elite, 51.9% from the field and 38.1% from three. Over his final 10 games before the injury, Butler was cooking 21.3 points per game on 53.2% shooting. Everything was lining up. The gamble looked justified. The nightmare felt impossible. He dropped 32 on the New York Knicks. He followed it up with 30 against the Atlanta Hawks. This was vintage Jimmy Butler. Not role player stuff, not nice veteran presence. This was full-on all-star level production. The Warriors were 25-19 and had won 12 of their last 16 games. They were climbing fast in the Western Conference standings, and the vibes were real. Meanwhile, Stephen Curry was cooking too. He was leading the league in made three-pointers while averaging 27.4 points per game. The spacing was perfect. The pressure was balanced. The offense finally made sense. For the first time, the Curry-Butler partnership actually clicked. Fans stopped dreaming and started believing. The Warriors were being talked about as real contenders again. Then January 20th happened, and just like that, all of it vanished. The championship window that had just started to crack open didn't slowly close. It slammed shut. Hard. And here's where things get even messier. 5 days before Butler's injury, Jonathan Kuminga requested a trade. January 15th, 2026, the very first day he was eligible to be moved under his new contract. Why? Playing time. Steve Kerr had benched Kuminga for 16 straight games, completely out of the rotation. No rhythm, no role, no patience left. The Warriors had committed fully to Butler, and Kuminga was the one paying the price. He got frustrated. He wanted out. And here's the wild part. The Warriors were actually considering it. Why? Because they thought Butler was locked in for the next 2 seasons. Then the ACL tear happens. Suddenly, Kuminga is right back to being the Warriors' second-best player. Kerr immediately puts him back in the lineup on January 21st against the Toronto Raptors. Kuminga drops 20 points in just 21 minutes. Just like that, he proves he still has serious value. But now there's a problem. Kuminga still wants out. The Warriors now can't trade him because they need him. And every other team knows Golden State is desperate. GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. tried to act tough, saying, "When you make a demand, there needs to be demand on the market." That's just posturing. The Warriors have zero leverage. They can't move Butler's contract. They can't afford to lose Kuminga. And the February 5th trade deadline is coming fast. They're trapped. They owe Butler $56.8 million next season, and there's a real chance he won't even play. But they still need him on the books. This isn't just bad luck anymore. This is a full-blown crisis. Stephen Curry is 37 years old, and his championship window is shrinking by the day. Draymond Green is 36 and clearly declining. The roster is old, expensive, and now missing its second-best player. The Golden State Warriors sold their future to win right now, and all of it disappeared in one third-quarter collision. And to really understand how bad this is, you have to understand what ACL recovery actually means. An ACL tear is a nightmare injury. The surgery is just the starting point. Doctors take a graft, usually from the hamstring or patellar tendon, and rebuild the ligament. Then comes months and months of rehab. First, you relearn how to walk, then how to jog, then lateral movement, then jumping, then cutting, step by step, pain by pain. Every athlete who's gone through it says the same thing. The mental battle is worse than the physical one. You're always thinking about re-injury. Every time you plant your foot, there's that split second of fear. And for a player like Jimmy Butler, that fear is deadly. Butler isn't a spot-up shooter. He's a slasher. He attacks the rim, he absorbs contact, he defends physically. His entire game is built on aggression, force, and trust in his body. After an ACL tear, that trust is gone. You hesitate, you protect yourself, you pull back just a little. And that tiny hesitation, that's the difference between an all-star and a role player. Now stack age on top of the injury. Even if Butler recovers perfectly, best case scenario, he's still coming back at 37 or 38. Bodies don't bounce back at that age. Explosiveness drops, recovery slows, wear and tear stacks up fast. Younger players can survive an ACL tear because they have athleticism to spare. Older players don't have that margin. And here's the brutal truth. Butler was already slowing down before the injury. His game had evolved from explosive slasher to crafty veteran. Now he has to reinvent himself again. And there's no guarantee he can. That leaves the Warriors staring at a cold reality. They traded real assets. They committed massive money. And now they're locked into an aging core that's no longer good enough to seriously compete. The trade deadline is 2 weeks away. They can't move Butler's contract. They can't afford to tear it down. They can't upgrade meaningfully. This isn't just a setback. This is the bill coming due. They can't blow it up because Stephen Curry deserves better. They can't run it back because their second best player is done for the year. That's NBA purgatory, not good enough to win, not bad enough to rebuild, too expensive to fix. This is what happens when you go all in and the basketball gods say no. The Golden State Warriors gambled everything on one last championship push. They traded young assets for a veteran star with baggage. They handed him a massive extension. And for a moment, it worked. Jimmy Butler looked alive again. The team clicked. The window cracked open. Then one collision, one twisted knee, one torn ligament, and the entire plan collapsed. The Warriors' championship window didn't slowly close. It shattered. Jimmy Butler went from losing his joy in Miami to finding it again in Golden State, to potentially losing everything. Just 1 year earlier, he was suspended indefinitely, exiled, painted as the villain who quit on his team. He forced his way out, signed a massive deal, and proved everyone wrong. This season, he was playing some of the best basketball of his late career. He was happy, the Warriors were winning, the story was finally flipping. Then January 20th happened, and everything Butler fought to rebuild came crashing down in an instant. That's the cruel truth about sports. Years of sacrifice, discipline, and pain can disappear in a single play. No warning, no mercy. Jimmy Butler's career might not end with a farewell tour or a graceful exit, but on the floor of Chase Center, screaming in pain, his knee destroyed by a collision with the very player traded for him. That's not poetic, that's brutal. And for Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors, this isn't a nightmare, it's reality. The real question now isn't whether Butler can come back. It's whether there's anything left to come back to. If you want real NBA stories without the fake optimism, make sure you subscribe because the fallout from this is far from over.